introduce yourself to people and say what you do and what the company is.
Yeah. My name's Kim, and I'm the administrative manager for Dog Adventures Northwest. So I handle all of the client communications, scheduling changes, and any issues that come up with our contractors. All the admin
Okay.
work.
I feel like you should have a better title, like superhero or something. Because we know the operations people are the ones just holding everything down. So I think more than anyone, you're probably the beneficiary of some of the stuff that we've worked on this
Oh,
round.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
so this is the fourth time that we've worked with Dog Adventures, and at the risk of other clients finding out, y'all are probably one of my favorite clients, just because Carrie is so on top of it. It's once she decides to go, like, we are going.
Yeah,
and and I love that.
we're
And
in.
because of that, we get a lot done in a short amount of time.
Mhm.
So what was the big pain point that brought y'all back?
The big pain point was we're at a place where we're growing. And so my admin work is increasing significantly, but we haven't grown to the point yet where we can hire a second person. And so, like an assistant for me. And so it was getting to a point where I'm just not able to complete everything, just being one person. And Carrie has the bigger picture stuff to think of. And so any spillover that I couldn't accomplish was piling onto her workload. And it just became really unsustainable really fast. And we really needed, okay, what are things that can streamline and get automated so that those simple tasks that I spend so much time doing can become done without me having to
Yeah.
like, write it out, push all the buttons. So
Yeah. How long would you say you were in that state of, ooh, this is too much?
it probably about a year. But it's
Oh.
that like when you're it's the boiling lobster, right? You're sitting in the pot and you're like, this is fine. I regularly work 40 hours a week. Sometimes I work 43 hours a week. Sometimes I work 50 hours a week. When's the last time I rested? And it's like all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I should have gotten help a long time ago.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned things like little admin things you were spending so much time on. What were some of those things?
I think the things honestly I spend the most time on are just reminding contractors that they need to communicate with me, with the client. I will send 5 to 10 emails to one contractor of, hey, do you have anything to schedule yet? Do you have anything to schedule? I need you to tell me if you've even talked to them yet, if you have anything to schedule. And it's those little follow-ups that
Hmm.
get really tedious because I'm like, I'm just trying to do my job. You do yours. I don't want
Right. Like you've
time.
handed the baton, you don't want to take it back. You just want to hand it off. And just so people have a clear sort of picture, the way that Dog Adventures works is like you have the company and then all of your clients are serviced by contractors, right? So
Mhm.
when a client says, and we've been your client for, I don't know, 4 years now or something. So when a client says, hey, I want my dog to go on adventures, then you were taking that request, right? To
Yeah.
what was that process?
Yeah. So if a client reaches out and says they have a need, I reach out first to their specific trainer or leader or boarder and see if the service works for them. And often that takes multiple rounds of follow up. And if they say ultimately it doesn't work for them, then I have to send it out to the larger team. And then that takes multiple rounds of follow up as well. And that's
Hmm.
actually the easier process. The larger process is new clients because if we can get them scheduled and paired and meet and greet, then we get them onboarded, then we get them scheduled. And so the process just gets really drawn out. And at every phase, there's so much, hey, remember, I need you to respond. I need you to respond. Even if it's no, I need you to respond. So,
Right. Okay. So let's get to the good stuff. So I remember meeting with Carrie like maybe a year ago or more. And it started with, she sent me a text message and it was a screenshot. And I was like, what am I looking at? And it was a list of Zapier integrations with Time to Pet, which is
mhm.
the software that you all use for all your client management. So it was like, oh, the whole world is up and up. So we got together and came up with this whole automation wish list, right? So it's a whole database, multiple things. And then when we came in, obviously this was the hugest thing that we needed to solve, was getting you freed up. So what's the like experience now for you? What's the process versus what it was before?
So much different. So before, everything would come to me via email and I would have to process it via email and then outwardly to the apps they belong in. And now everything filters into one location in Airtable, and I have all the data in one spot. I can go in, get the information I need, assign the service they want, and send it out. And it takes care of emails to all of the team. It takes care of follow up to the team, repeated follow up to the team, and those time limits too of no one's responded. I guess nobody wants it. And now I can follow up with the client. And so, pretty much from when they come in to when I'm having to either reject them or onboard them, I now have 2 steps as opposed to 15 to 20. And it's
Yeah,
a massive difference.
that's huge. So do you have a sense of how many hours per week that this saves you?
It's hard to gauge because there was a learning curve. And now I'm in my busiest time of the year because everybody's like holiday boarding. But this time last year, I was solidly working like 60 hours a week. And right now I'm at like 45. So I would wager probably about 15 hours is what it's saving me. And I'll see the most payoff once we get past the holidays and I can really gauge like how much calmer my world is and how much more time I have for projects and not minutia. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see that.
Yeah. Oh, nice. I love hearing that. I'll talk a little bit for the nerdy audience about what goes on the back end. So basically, we're running everything through Airtable and fill out, because what we needed was for you to have one place to review things, but then we also needed the contractor to be able to go and look at, okay, this is everything the client requested, and then just be able to say, yes, I'm interested, or no, I'm not. And what it does now is you go and figure out, okay, which list of contractors should this go to? And you just pick a list in a drop down and say, okay, send the email. And then the contractor gets to click a link and say, okay, here's what the request is, and say yes or no. So let's say 5 or 6 contractors say, okay, I'm interested. Y'all have a system where you pick who gets that job, who gets that client based on seniority and based on certifications, right?
Mhm.
And so we made a scoring rubric, or you probably already had the scoring rubric, but we put that into Airtable. And so now the robots look at that and figure out the
Good.
score and say, this person has the highest score, therefore you get the job. Everybody else gets notified that they didn't
Mhm.
get the job. All that just happens in seconds behind the scenes with
I don't
Airtable.
have to think about it at all. And it's one of those things where a robot is so much better at grabbing the data fast. And I'm like, I have access to all the data, but if I have 5 contractors and I'm like, okay, I know who has what certifications, but when did who get hired? And I have to go look it up. So it takes off a lot of that extra research too. Because when you have 30 contractors, you know them as people, but those details, what area of town do they live in? What does their schedule look like? What's their specific certification? It's too much. So I had access to it, but I'd rather the robot just grab it.
Yeah, totally. Oh man, I love this. Okay, so I'm curious because one of the things I think people don't take action on this sooner is that they don't know what's possible. Could you have imagined what we built for you? Did you have a sense of, you just came in and, oh, they're going to make it better, right?
Yeah, basically, yeah. The way my brain works, I was really struggling to understand what even was possible. And
Mhm.
luckily, Carrie and I worked on that list for wish list items together because I was like, I have no idea. I just know I need help. And between you guiding us and Carrie and I really thinking together creatively, like, no, really, what do you do all the time that's tedious? Like, just whatever it is, just whatever it is. And now that it's up and running, I'm like, I have all these ideas. I can't believe it does this. It probably could do all these things too if I just ask. And it's really opened up so many possibilities. And I will completely agree because when Carrie brought it up to me, I was like, that all sounds well and good, but tell me what it does. Like, how do I know if it's going to help? I don't know what it does. And I just legitimately, anybody listening to this should know it does a lot. And it's hard to explain until you're experiencing it. At least for me, it was, but
Mhm.
it manages minutia tasks. If the task can be boiled down to data and repeatable emails, repeatable actions, there's a high likelihood it can be done. So if you're writing the same email every day 20 times, if you're doing the same task every day 20 times, you the likelihood is high that you're going to get help for it.
Yeah, and I would add that even for the things where there does need to be human intervention, one thing that helps so much is to package up everything that you need to know or see and just present it to you and
Yeah,
say, here's what you need to know in this context. Now decide.
yeah. I don't have to hunt for anything.
Yeah.
It's all in one spot and it's easily filterable. When I want to look at like bigger details, it's great.
Had you
Should have been
worked
doing
with
it for a while.
Airtable at all before?
I hadn't. I had heard of it and I kept hearing how great it was. But it was one of those things I just never dedicated the time to learning. And I'm learning so much now because of you guys. And I could not build it from scratch myself. But you guys have been really good about empowering us to look and see how it works and really show us how we can either request changes or modify things so that we're really empowered to maintain this system and then come to you when we need help building something new.
Yeah. What would you say that learning curve was like in terms of steepness and length before you felt like, oh, I can't, I'm getting a handle on this?
Pretty exploratory. So not super steep. You guys do a really good job empowering us and setting us up for success. And everything is built so cleanly that the second it was built, I was going in and what did they do? Okay, look at the update. Because for anybody watching, they send updates that are so helpful. And so go check out the updates and see how they work together. And then you start piecing two and two together. And any questions I had, you guys were one, really on top of emails really fast, which is love that as an admin person, so fast. But it's a big, complicated system. I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's a big, hefty system. And like you need help with it. You just do. But it's not insurmountable with the support of this team. I have felt
And
really
I would
excited about
say
it.
what we built for you is probably one of the most complex things that we've built because you
Yes.
have so much going on behind the scenes. So people watching this are probably not going to need something as complex as what we
Right.
built for you. But
And if you do,
um,
don't worry, they'll hold your hand.
exactly. So what's next? I love that you said now that you understand what's possible, like things start to blossom and you're like, ooh, I could do this. I could do this. And so one thing we do, because I know that's going to happen, is we give you a strategy document and we're like,
Mhm.
when all these ideas start to blossom, here's a place where you can park those so that we can come back to them. Because I think one of our biggest challenges is and I really had to work with Carrie on this because she's like, oh, but I have this other thing. I said, we're going to finish this and we're going to launch it because that thing you want next is actually dependent on this, right? So that's one of the things that I try to be really mindful of is we are going to finish this thing so you can start getting the benefits of it and then we're going to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So what are some of those ideas and what are some of those things that you're imagining?
Yeah. My first highest priority for me is now that we have it all built, I want to like really drill down and make it exactly how my brain works since I'm the one that's using it solely
Mm-hmm.
and just make it like I streamline. You guys have been so good about streamlining where the information is. And I'm like, let's add it all everywhere. And I'm like, no, there's probably an in between somewhere. So just really being specific about which step, exactly what info I want, and just cleaning up to make it really tight is I'm really excited about that step first. But then I'm excited about expanding and how we can took some notes here. Oh, using it to create data lists that the team can stay in touch with because we have access to all the data on the back end. And every time the team wants information about who's on the wait list, what boardings have been passed up recently,
Yeah.
who needs what that's still open, I have to go and dig it up manually. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't
Ooh.
have to do that anymore. It's all here. Like it just needs a quick like filter and board for the contractors that I can go link, grab it yourself. Like
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
thinking about ways to empower them to manage instead of me micromanaging how they get people off the wait list, they can just have
Mm-hmm.
access to it. If they're on the wait list, grab
Yeah.
them. And then they
Yeah.
enter in the system like they're a new client, whatever. And so I'm really excited to like how that can take that micromanaging off my plate and what that has the potential to do to empower our contractors to not feel like they have to wait for me when I'm in a busy week. They can just get the info they need. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think
And
it's
that's better for your
positives.
clients. It's better for your contractors. You get to serve more people
Totally.
faster. Like it's a whole thing.
Faster.
Yeah. No,
Absolutely.
I remember when Carrie first started working with us, she came to a content boot camp, and I remember having the thought because she would come in and be like, "Oh, now we have a wait list. Now we have," and I was like, "Ooh, we better get our dog in." I was like, "We're gonna be
Right?
on the outside looking in." So, and
Yeah.
now our dog has been adventuring for 4 years. So
Yeah.
great.
I'm excited about those little things too. Of we have these massive wait lists, and there are people that really still want to be on them, and there are people who have moved on. And creating automations that can check in with those people from time to time without adding an extra task to my plate. They've been on the
Mhm.
wait list for 3 months. Send a check-in. Hey, would you like us to resend your form to the team? Would you like us to take you off the wait list? Just little check-in points, because I know that there's so many dogs in Portland and there's so much need and there's so few people that we could be serving people better if we filter out the ones that are genuinely just not interested anymore. And then we're not wasting
Mhm.
our time offering waitlist clients to our contractors that will never come to fruition because it's
Right.
wasted time when we could be serving more people better and have a better friendly interaction with our community. So
Mhm.
I'm excited for the potential of looking at this going into customer service zone as well.
Awesome. This is great. I always ask this because people are going to be watching this that are thinking like, "Oh, I need automation, but I don't know what, I don't know why, I don't know when, whatever." What would you say to those people who are like, "I'm not sure if this is going to be worth it or if I should reach out?" What would you say to those folks?
If you're overwhelmed in your work, it's 100% worth it already. Sign in before you're overwhelmed. It's been such a gift, and I really wish I personally had gotten on board faster because don't be a lobster in a pot. Like there's only one of you, and you have to protect. You have to protect your work-life balance because I love working and I love working for Carrie and I love admin work. And there's a point when I'm like, I haven't gone on a date with my husband this in a month because I'm just tired. There's a tipping point, and if you wait until you're already at that tipping point to get the help you need, it's exhausting. So just dive in because if you want to grow, you need to be able to streamline what you're doing now so that you have the ability to grow. If you're already at your max capacity and you're trying to predict growth, then that just means you're growing into your personal time, and that's not healthy. So
Yeah, don't be
free
a
up
lobster in a
time.
pot is definitely going to be the quotable I take from
Don't be a lobster in a pot.
Awesome. All right. If you are watching this and you want to get some relief and you're overwhelmed or you're pre-overwhelmed and you want to get on top of it, go to carveldigital.com, check out the ways to work with us. Kim, thank you so much for your time. And I cannot wait to dive into the rest of your list.
So excited.